As the last few days of spring break draw to a close, Tomoya Aki rides downhill on his bike toward his home. Suddenly, a white hat blown away by the wind falls in front of him. Aki stops, picks it up, and looks uphill to see who dropped it. His eyes widen as he notices a beautiful girl standing on top, gazing down at him like the main heroine from a dating sim. Although spring break is over, the memory of his brief encounter with the girl remains etched in his mind. Aki had spent the remaining spring break feverishly crafting a plot for a dating sim based on this encounter. As the school resumes and students gather for the opening ceremony, Aki heads off to the side to meet with his childhood friend Ariri Spence Sawamura, who happens to be one of the most popular girls in school and secretly a doujinshi artist. Excitedly, he shares his game idea and recounts his encounter, asking Ariri to be the artist for the game. However, Ariri dismisses his proposal, claiming the plot is too cliché and he's overthinking it, and crumples up his page, making him fall to his knees in agony. Undeterred, Aki invites her to the AV room after school, determined to make his pitch once again. After attending the ceremony, Aki seeks out his senior, Yutaha Kasumigoka, who is the most popular girl in the entire school and boasts the best grades. Yutaha, who secretly writes novels, is immersed in a book. Aki takes some food to her and feeds her so that she can talk to him. He eagerly shares his plans and asks Yutaha to write the script for his game. However, she instantly shoots him down, sharing the same remarks as Ariri and crushing his spirits. Nonetheless, Aki insists on meeting her in the AV room after school, determined to make the plot more appealing. Throughout the day at school, Aki refines his idea and rewrites it until he deems it perfect. He then hurries toward the AV room, but on his way, he gets stopped in the hallway by a girl who informs him that a teacher is looking for him. Apologizing, Aki explains that he's currently busy and promises to get back to it the next day. Just as he's about to leave, the girl thanks him for returning her hat the other day. Realizing that his heroine attends the same school as him, Aki hastily rushes back to stop her before she leaves. Aki takes the girl Megumi Katu to a cafe to spend some time while trying to know her better. To his surprise, he realizes that Megumi is actually from his own class. Impressed by her appearance, Aki comments on how cute she looks. However, Megumi remains unfazed and points out that while she knows she's cute, Aki never seemed to notice her before. Aki reluctantly agrees, realizing that he had been in the same class as Megumi since the first year but never paid attention to her. It's as if she possesses a strange ability to blend into the background completely. Curious about the white hat, Aki asks Megumi about it. She explains that she gave it to her cousin as a souvenir when she visited her during spring break. Aki sighs, disappointed that their seemingly fateful encounter meant so little to her. He wonders how she remembers a remarkable otaku like him, but Megumi tells him that he's not as remarkable as he thinks. In fact, the entire school knows him because he pleaded with the teachers to include anime and manga in the school library. This news confuses Aki since he had no idea that he has gained popularity similar to that of Ariri and Yutaha. Unable to accept that this seemingly emotionless girl is his potential heroine, Aki tells Megumi that her character lacks depth and development. She is currently a blank slate that needs work. Aki explains that he needs her to become the ideal heroine he envisions, leaving Megumi perplexed as it almost feels like he just confessed to her. She interrupts him, saying that all those rude remarks are uncalled for and questioning if he's dating the two most beautiful girls in school. Aki clarifies that tropes like the most beautiful girl only exist in dating sims, and that he only needs 2D girls since 3D girls can be a hassle. But Megumi points out the window where Yutaha and Ariri are standing, furious that Aki didn't show up at the AV room after school when they were waiting for him. As Yutaha and Ariri join Aki and Megumi and start kicking Aki from under the table, Aki tries once again to present his game idea to them. However, both Yutaha and Ariri express their disapproval, insisting that the concept lacks uniqueness and that he should give up on it to avoid wasting his time. Determined, Aki refuses to give in. The following day, he invites Megumi over to his house, where he asks her to play a dating sim game in the hopes that she will understand the subject matter. Once Megumi finishes the game, she tells him that she enjoyed the experience but still fails to grasp the true appeal of it. As she gets ready to leave, Aki takes out a sequel to the game, persuading her to stay a little longer. Much to Aki's shock, Megumi agrees, deciding to stay late at his home. Aki is completely taken aback by the fact that she didn't bat an eye at the thought that she will be staying alone with the boy all night. Throughout the night, Aki and Megumi stay up, engrossed in playing the game. As dawn breaks, Aki asks Megumi if she will become part of his circle. Sleepy and annoyed, Megumi replies that she will, much to Aki's relief since he thought she was going to reject him. Aki contacts Katu to share the good news that Ariri and Yutaha have agreed to give him another chance. He informs her that he has until the end of the Golden Week to present them with a compelling proposal that will win them over. Since there won't be any school during this time, he plans to dedicate the entire week to working on the game. Aki invites Katu to join him so they can work on it together, but she apologizes and explains that she's currently in Hokkaido with her family for a festival and won't be able to return until the end of the Golden Week. With no one else available to help him, Aki resolves to tackle the task on his own. Aware that he only has 4 days to complete the proposal, he puts away all his manga and anime to eliminate distractions. However, he quickly gets sidetracked and starts reading a manga. Without even realizing, he has already gone through quite a number of books. When Aki glances at the clock, he realizes that he has already wasted most of the day doing nothing productive. As he goes to get some water, he notices that Ariri is already in his room, diligently working on her doujinshi. Ariri, who secretly came over to offer support, tells him that her father is hosting a party at home, making it difficult for her to concentrate. Just then, the doorbell rings and Ariri quickly hides in the closet as it's Yutaha. Aki answers the door to welcome Yutaha and brings her inside. Yutaha advises Aki to give up and tells him about the drawbacks of being a content writer. She tells him that no matter what, there will still be people out there who will criticize his content. After Ariri and Yutaha depart, Aki calls Katu and tells her that she should enjoy her vacation without worry. Well, the next day, he struggles to focus on his proposal and barely has a word written. Aki at this point is so broken down that he begins questioning whether he should give up. Seeking solace, Aki sits on the roadside of the hill where he initially met Katu. Suddenly, Katu arrives, dressed in the same attire she wore during their first encounter, and behaves like the perfect dating sim girl, embodying the image of his envisioned heroine. When he asks how she changed so quickly, she tells him that Ariri helped her pick out her clothes and Yutaha made a script for her to follow and help her to encourage him. Renewed with determination, Aki grabs Katu's hand and drags her away to his home so they can complete the proposal together. Yutaha receives a call from her manager, who informs her about an upcoming interview. Initially reluctant, she agrees when she learns that Aki will be conducting the interview. As Aki and Katu make their way to school, Katu tells him that she thoroughly enjoyed reading Yutaha's novels that Aki gave her the previous day and had no idea that she is such a talented writer. Aki enthusiastically agrees and allows her to keep the books, mentioning that he keeps multiple copies for reading and archiving purposes and that he will go out and buy some more after he has given her these. Aki heads to the publishing office to conduct Yutaha's interview. Initially, Yutaha responds with brief and reserved answers. When Aki asks about her books selling over 500,000 copies, the manager tells him that his own blog played a significant role in its success since he praised it so much. As the interview concludes, Aki inquires about Yutaha's aspirations for her upcoming series. Yutaha honestly expresses her gratitude to her fans for their unwavering support and assures them that she has multiple projects in the works, including Aki's game. The following day after school, everyone, including Ariri, decides to join Aki in working on the game. They gather in the AV room as Aki excitedly sketches a rough timeline for the project, outlining when they will work on different aspects of the game and aiming for a release by the end of the year. However, both Yutaha and Ariri strongly object, explaining that they have their own commitments and cannot fully dedicate themselves to the game. They also highlight the substantial financial requirements involved in publishing the game. Aki assures them that he will find a way to cover the costs and proposes taking on additional jobs. At this point, Katu speaks up asking what she has to do, surprising everyone since they had not even realized she was present. While working part-time as a waiter, Aki spots Katu entering the restaurant with another boy. Shocked by her actions, he confronts her at school the following day, expressing his disappointment and telling her that she is breaking her character. Katu calmly explains that the boy was only her cousin, attempting to ease his concerns. However, Aki's disapproval persists. He admits his own unreasonable behavior but asks her to avoid seeing him until the game is finished. Katu apologizes and mentions that she has plans to meet up with him over the weekend to visit the opening mall. Aki suggests that she go with him instead, and Katu agrees to the idea. Aki suddenly starts to whimper as the two of them going alone would mean that they are going on a date. Ariri attempts to get Katu to display various expressions so she can have a reference for character design. However, no matter how hard Ariri tries, Katu struggles to convey any emotions on her face. Unsure of how to respond, Katu simply returns to practicing on her own. Aki approaches Ariri to check on their progress, and she expresses her frustration, finding it difficult to work with Katu since she lacks any discernible character. Adding to the pressure, the deadline for character design is fast approaching. Aki then asks Ariri for dating advice, as he will be going to the mall with Katu. His unexpected request startles both Ariri and Yutaha. Ariri begins to provide sincere advice but quickly realizes what she's doing and becomes infuriated. Meanwhile, Utaha, caught up in the conversation, bursts into laughter while working on the plot, creeping out Aki as Iruri explains that Utaha is in the zone at the moment. Once Utaha finishes writing the plot, she hands it over to the group and quickly falls asleep, leaving the others to review it. While they all agree that the plot is excellent, something still feels off to Aki. He asks Utaha to wait a little longer until he figures out what's not quite right, which annoys her. Aki accompanies Katu to the mall, feeling disgusted by the sight of numerous normie couples around them. After barely making it through the crowds, Aki devises a plan to help them visit all the shops Katu wants to see. They navigate through the stores, moving from one to the next until they reach the very last one. After taking a brief rest, Aki approaches Katu in the store. She expresses her gratitude for coming with her and tells him that she had a fun day. In that moment, Aki realizes what has been missing in the script. He apologizes to Katu, explaining that he won't be able to accompany her home, and rushes off to meet with Utaha. However, despite his attempts to contact her, Utaha completely ignores his calls. Utaha's first encounter with Aki was during one of her book signings. She was taken aback by his enthusiastic praise, causing her to look more closely at him and realize that he is her junior at school. Utaha started spending more time with Aki, surprised by his knowledge of books, and begins to develop feelings for him. After finishing another novel, she asks Aki if he would proofread it for her. However, he declines, saying that she should have more confidence in her work and that he wouldn't be able to find any flaws since he's a huge fan, which leaves Utaha heartbroken. In the present, Utaha's manager informs her that Tomoe has been continuously calling her and advises her to take the call. Utaha, however, expresses her reluctance and evades the subject. As it starts to rain, Utaha and her manager are at a cafe when she notices Tomoe standing outside in the rain, completely drenched with water. She decides to bring him back to her hotel room so he can take a bath and change since there are no more trains leaving tonight. After she's finished taking her bath as well, Utaha asks Tomoe how he found out that she was in Wago City. Tomoe tells her that he contacted her mother, who provided him with the information. Tomoe then turns to Utaha and tells her what he finds lacking in the plot. He explains that the main heroine doesn't seem to find happiness in the end. Initially annoyed, Utaha eventually agrees to his suggestion of creating 2 routes for the game and including them both. They then spend the entire night working together to develop the plot. The next day, Utaha wakes Tomoe up, informing him that she needs to leave and that he needs to return the hotel key before 10 a.m. Before leaving, she finally acknowledges Tomoe as a true content creator. Meanwhile, while Tomoe ran off to meet Utaha, Iruri finds Katu standing at the mall. Seeing this as an opportunity, Iruri takes Katu to a table and attempts to sketch her again. Iruri mentions feeling sorry for Katu as her date had just left to chase after another girl, which angers Katu. Seizing the chance, Iruri quickly sketches Katu's expression, pleased to finally have some reference material. She shows the sketch to Katu, who comments that she doesn't have such a mean face. Iruri urgently calls Eki over, explaining that she is in a tight spot. She tells him that since she has been devoting her time to helping him with his game, she hasn't been able to give enough attention to her own work, and now her deadline is approaching rapidly and she's in a crunch. Taking responsibility for his role in this situation, Aki asks how he can assist her. Iruri tells him that he needs to help her come up with the premise and plot for her doujinshi. Aki starts to hesitate, telling her that he's an amateur at this sort of thing. However, Iruri insists that she has no other choice. After agreeing to help her, Aki drafts a rough outline and goes over the character lines with Iruri repeatedly, providing her with a general idea of what to write. Both of them are completely worn out after finishing the script, as some of the lines turned out to be cringe-worthy. The next day at school, Eki is shocked to see that Katu has changed her hairstyle. He admonishes her, claiming that she has zero understanding of what the character truly represents and shouldn't simply change her appearance on a whim. Katu defends herself, explaining that she tied her hair into a ponytail because she felt like it. She argues that even in some manga, the heroine changes her looks to gain attention. Aki counters by stating that the problem lies in the fact that no one else is paying attention to her except him. As they head toward the school gate, Aki is suddenly approached by a middle school girl, Izumi Hashima, who rushes over to hug him. Aki is surprised to see her and introduces her to the others. Izumi excitedly tells them how she didn't used to watch anime or read manga, but after she met Aki, her views about it completely changed. Izumi proudly shows him her doujin work, impressing Aki with her considerable improvement within a year. She hands Aki a ticket, inviting him to visit her stall at the upcoming summer Comic-Con. Aki gladly accepts the invitation, promising to be there without fail. On their way home, Aki and Iruri run into their old classmate, Iori Hashima, who happens to be the representative of the doujin circle, Ryujin Rouge. Aki, however, doesn't consider him a friend for Iori, lying to gain popularity within circles. Iori tells him that he has heard about Aki working on a game with Ariri and Utaha, acknowledging that it will surely create waves within the community. Nonetheless, he asserts that he is up for the challenge. Turning to Ariri, Iori offers her a position as an illustrator for his circle, emphasizing that they are actively seeking one. Katu visits Aki's house and realizes that both Aki and Ariri are occupied with their respective tasks. She glances at Ariri's doujinshi and becomes flustered, expressing surprise that Ariri has to create such explicit scenes. Aki clarifies that those scenes are not intended for the game, but rather for Ariri's personal works, which she needs to submit soon. Since Ariri is behind schedule, Aki is helping her out. Katu inquires if Aki will be going to Comiket to assist Izumi, and he confirms that he will. Aki mentions that the Comiket they are attending is not as significant as the one held during winter. Katu sits down to play games on Aki's console, and Aki gradually moves closer to her, attempting to spoil the game. However, Katu tells him to focus on his work. Once he completes his tasks, Aki joins Katu, making Ariri jealous as she also desires to play games. Once she's done, Ariri quickly grabs a controller and starts to play. Aki asks if she's going to join Iori, to which she tells him not to worry as Iori just discards artists away once he's done with them. The following day, both Katu and Aki head to Comiket to help Izumi set up her table. After setting up, Katu looks around and notices people carrying boxes of books to their stalls. She asks Izumi if they only have what is already set up, to which Aki explains that those individuals expect to sell a large quantity as they already have an established fan base. However, since it is Izumi's first time, they are aiming to sell 100 copies. While Aki stands behind Izumi, he goes through her doujinshi sample and becomes captivated by a particular page. He asks Izumi how many copies she has sold so far, and she replies with only 7. Aki asks her to wait and quickly rushes to a nearby net cafe. He creates a poster from the last page of Izumi's doujinshi, prints it out, and returns to the stall with some cardboard to make a large banner. The banner attracts more people to Izumi's table. Initially embarrassed as it is an unfinished page, Izumi's work starts drawing a crowd, and she quickly sells out. Amidst the bustling crowd, Aki notices that Ariri has also purchased a copy of Izumi's doujinshi. He catches up to her and realizes that she looks upset and asks her if she's alright. Ariri asks if he likes Izumi's drawings, to which he responds positively, saying they are good. Ariri angrily exclaims that he never helped her or praised her work like this. Aki tries to reassure her that she can do well without his assistance, but Ariri runs away with tears in her eyes. Aki wakes up in his room to find both Katu and Utaha. He asks them why they are there, to which Katu explains that she saw Ariri running away and called Utaha over to help with anything. Utaha asks Aki what happened, but he is hesitant at first to disclose the details, telling her that it's a matter between him and Ariri. After recounting the incident to Utaha, she tells him that it was immature of him to praise someone else's work in front of Ariri and that he should have kept it to himself. Aki argues that he can't do that because he genuinely feels that way. Utaha explains that while his words may not affect Ariri's popularity, they hurt her deeply as she has always been attached to him since childhood. To make amends, Utaha suggests acting out a scene from Ariri's favorite game, to which Aki agrees. The next day, he rushes to Iori, who is still at Comiket, and asks for a favor to lend him a costume. He quickly changes into the costume and heads to Ariri's home, where her father is hosting a party. As Ariri steps out onto the balcony to watch some fireworks, Aki appears from a tree near her, extending his hand and asking her to come with him. Confused by his actions, she agrees to go. Aki takes her back to their old middle school, where they used to attend together. Initially, he attempts to apologize, but Ariri is unwilling to listen. She suggests that if he considers Izumi's art to be superior, he should bring her into his circle instead of her. Aki becomes angry and reminds her that she turned her back on him when they were kids. He recounts how he defended her against the kids who made fun of them, only for her to start ignoring him at school, which deeply hurt him and took years to recover from. Ariri, taken aback by his words, insists that he should apologize instead, given his high praise for Izumi's work. Aki tells her the truth, admitting that Izumi's work is indeed better than hers. While she has come a long way, she needs to be consistent in her work. Realizing her mistake, Ariri promises Aki that she will strive to become the best artist he could hope for. The following day, after their circle's banner illustration is completed, Ariri hands it over to Aki, who officially writes their name as Blessing Software. After a video conference with everyone discussing the next steps for the game, Aki shuts down his computers and prepares to take a bath. However, when he opens the door, he finds his cousin, Mikuru Hyudo, standing there having just finished her shower. Once she's dressed, Mikuru goes to Aki's room to inform him that she will be staying with him for a few days. Aki asks her why, and she reveals that she ran away from home after a disagreement with her father regarding her school band, which is now on the verge of breaking up. The next day at school, they continue working on the game, and Katu notices a large programming book on the table. She inquires about it, and Anki explains that since none of them have any coding or game engine knowledge, they have been taking turns learning how to code the game. Katu picks up the book and starts reading it, while Aki and Ariri discuss the remaining issue of the game's music. Suddenly, Aki receives an email from Mikuru asking if he wants pizza for dinner. Katu, who accidentally read the message, informs Aki that she won't tell anyone. However, Ariri snatches the phone from his hand and reads the entire message. Yutaha and Ariri restrain Aki, bombarding him with questions about the girl at his home. Aki tries to explain that Mikuru is his cousin and nearly the same age as him, but it only fuels their curiosity further. Upon returning home, Aki notices that Mikuru has already begun moving her belongings into his room. After making space for her, Aki heads to the bath, telling her to keep the volume down as she plans to play music to avoid disturbing the neighbors. As soon as he leaves, Mikuru cranks up her amplifier and starts playing her guitar. Aki rushes back to her room but stops outside the door, captivated by the music that perfectly complements his game. He bursts into the room and asks Mikuru if she will help him create the music for his game. Aki invites the others over and introduces them excitedly to his cousin, emphasizing how incredible her music is and how well it will complement their game. He pleads to Mikuru to join him, but she declines, telling him that she's not interested in otaku stuff and tells Aki to grow up. After everyone leaves, Aki continues to try to convince her, but she remains firm in her decision. She explains that she has her own dream of forming a band and her friends are supporting her in achieving that, so she cannot just abandon her dream to join Aki's project. Curious about her father's objection to her being in a band, Aki inquires further. Mikuru tells him that her father insisted they get a manager, but they have been unable to find one. Aki offers to help by exploring his connections in the entertainment industry to find a manager for them. However, Mikuru stops him, saying that they can't entrust their future to just anyone and proposes that Aki becomes their manager. Shocked by the suggestion, Aki protests, explaining that he already has a lot on his plate. But Mikuru tells him that if he wants her to write music for his game, he needs to assist her with her band. She also tells him that his friends are more interested in hanging out than working on the game. Aki is taken aback by her words. Later at night, he attempts to write more code for the game but struggles to do anything. The following morning, Aki calls Katu and expresses his concern about being the only one dedicated to the game. Katu suggests meeting at a cafe, and when they do, she presents Aki with the game scenario she has been working on, assuring him that he is not alone in wanting to complete the project. Aki is surprised by her progress and is appreciative of her contribution when she tells him that since she had no other talent, she decided to learn how to code the game. Afterward, Aki plays some of Michiru's music for Katu, secretly recorded by himself. She agrees that it sounds excellent but expresses confusion. Katu wonders if Mikuru truly isn't an otaku, as her music resembles an anime theme. A few days later, Aki hands Michiru a pamphlet, informing her that in 1 month's time she will be performing live in front of an audience. Due to another band dropping out, Aki swiftly secures a gig for them. Michiru is left speechless by Aki's ability to secure them a performance in such a short amount of time. On the day of their performance, Aki meets with Mikuru and her friends one last time to check if they have any second thoughts or want to back out. However, they are all determined to do their best. Aki tells them that he has arranged costumes for them and advises them to change into them before the show, hiding a mischievous smile. Meanwhile, just before the performance is about to begin, Katu and Yutaha go to a maid cafe as Ariri is hiding there, since she feels that her status as a childhood friend had been usurped by Mikuru. They forcefully bring her to the venue despite her protests. Upon entering the backstage area, all three of them are shocked to see Mikuru strangling Aki, furious about the maid outfits with cat ears he had chosen for them. Aki laughs and explains that this is what happens when an otaku goes all out. He also tells her that her music is actually inspired by anime, leaving her even more stunned. She turns to her friends who confess and tell her that they never told her since she disliked otaku stuff. Aki reassures Mikuru and encourages her to give it her all. The band takes the stage and prepares to perform. Mikuru takes a deep breath and starts singing, instantly becoming the highlight of the show. After the performance, Aki approaches Mikuru to congratulate her, but she continues to strangle him, still annoyed about the embarrassing outfit he made her wear. Yukaha, Aki, Katu, and Ariri gather around a laptop, playing their completed game. Aki raises his hands in triumph, announcing that the first round of their game is complete. However, the others don't share his enthusiasm and immediately get back to work, determined to meet their deadline for Winter Comic-Con. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for more quality uploads.